we're about to arrive for the first time to our property. This is the first time we come in as owners.
We've been travelling for the past 12 months in our self-converted camper van. Spent an amazing 3 months in Turkey. We spent beautiful time in the Balkans where we've met a lot of people. Summertime in Poland, and now Portugal. We're hoping Portugal will be our dream destination for our future home.
The weather's not too good. That's not going to stop us celebrating. We got champagne and we've got all this space for this little wet dog. He's loving life.
This is like such a massive dream come true. We are landlords of this huge property that's actually
landlords.
This whole thing is just under 4,000 square meters, where at first we thought it's just over 3,000 square meters, but we'll go into all the details later in another episode or whatnot. We don't have a clue yet, we're just celebrating.
Well done. Hi and welcome to our new property. As you could see in that intro, we bought this place. We're really happy that we've got a place to call home now. And I thought we're going to take this video to walk you through the whole process from start to finish of buying a property in Portugal. In our case, this was a piece of land, but the whole process should apply to buying any kind of property in Portugal.
We've actually been looking at properties in Portugal for the past 2 years, but we knew there was absolutely no point getting deep down into it since we're not here and we can't view them, and the prices keep changing as well. So the moment we came to Portugal in September, we decided to get on it and search for the right property. There's nothing like going to a piece of land or a property and getting a feel for it. There were so many beautiful lands that we saw online that we just didn't click with. So the whole process was searching for properties on 2 websites. All I did was typed in the region's name in the search bar and then viewed all the properties that were there.
So this property, the property that we actually ended up buying, was one of the first ones we actually seen. It was probably within the first 2 weeks of us being in Portugal, and as soon as we seen it, we wanted to start the process just so we're ready to actually buy it when it comes to it.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, is that Kinga?
It is, yeah, it's Kinga and Martin. We've got it on speaker.
Hi Simon.
Hi Kinga, hi Martin. Hi.
Right, so we just had a chat with Simon. He seems like he knows what he's talking about. He wanted to do what we are trying to do right now. A few years ago, before COVID, obviously then the pandemic hit, so they changed the plans.
Hi, so we've just finished our breakfast and we're waiting around for our appointment at the Camara, which is like a council. So after we found potential land that we're interested in, we'll have to do some research at the council, find out as much information as we possibly can about what's on the land, what's underneath the land, etc., whether it's urbanized or not. Cross-check any facts, and we're stressing a little bit.
One thing to add to that is that we've got a person helping us. We've got like a translator / advisor with us, and she's going to help us through the process, ask the right questions and just make the process easier. I think it's important to have someone like that you can trust. What we ended up doing is we found a person on Pure Portugal who advertised themselves as a local specialist in this region, and that person has provided us with a report kind of about the land, whether there's all the financial side of things is fine, whether there's no debt attached to the land, what you can actually do with the land, whether it's urban, whether it's rustic, whether it's buildable. So all that was done by a person that went to the Camara with us. She translated for us, she helped us ask the right questions, and at the same time we sorted out our NIF in the Camara, which we have paid for, but we realized in the end it could be done for free. But I'm glad we actually went to the Camara with someone who, you know, spoke the language. It showed respect, I think, because we didn't just come in and expected people to speak English. The first actual step you need to do is get a NIF. That's the fiscal number, which then kind of makes you a tax payer in Portugal. It's that easy to do. You just need a proof of address, which in our case we have a British address, but we have a Polish passport, and that wasn't a problem. Once the report was done, within a few weeks, and us being back here on this property a few times, we sort of made the decision to buy this place.
Hi Simon, so we've just been to the Camara today and everything checks out and we'd like to make you an offer.
The next step in this process was hiring a lawyer or a solicitor. We actually didn't find it that hard to find one. We looked on Facebook groups, we asked people that we knew, and in the end we decided to get around 3 quotes from different solicitors and went with the one that we were clicked the most with and liked the most. We were very stressed at the beginning because we were like, oh my gosh, we have the report, the seller has accepted our offer, but we don't have a lawyer. We need to get on it quickly, and that's when we started stressing. But once we had a few people get back to us, which were really responsive, which was quite shocking at first, we got 3 quotes, went with the best one, and we are so pleased with the lawyer that we've had. Since we're not married and we wanted to have both of our names on the property, on the contract, the first step was to get a certificate of co-ownership, and you need to do that ahead of time, not on the day of the deed. What this does is puts you both names on the contract, and the way you do this is you go to the Camara with your lawyer or on your own, ask for a certificate of co-ownership, you put your names down, and the certificate is ready in around 10 days. So just make sure you do that ahead of time.
Another update. Today marks just over a month from the very first time we viewed the property, and like 2 weeks ago or so on, we were at the Camara gathering all the information, and today we went there again with our lawyer to obtain the certificate of co-ownership. And having this means that we can actually have a date for the deed signing.
So this view that you can see behind us was one of the main reasons we fell in love with this property. The reason the whole thing was stressful for us was because after we've applied for the certificate of co-ownership, we sort of lost touch with our lawyer. After 10 working days, we still heard nothing. We sent messages, we heard nothing back, so we didn't know what was going on. In the end, the whole certificate took 3 or 4 weeks even. So within that time, you know, we explored Portugal, we went to the Algarve, we had a good time, but in the back of our heads, it was like, you know, what's happening? The seller's waiting, accepted the offer, we are waiting. The seller is kind of scheduled to come to Portugal on a certain date, which was where we were hoping to actually sign the deed. It was a private seller, there was no agencies involved, which probably made things easier for us. After that, we luckily heard back, and we got the deed date sorted.
Yeah, so we've got the deed date, you know, we're in advance of like, I don't know, maybe 3 days. So we were rushing back from the Algarve back to central Portugal. The whole deed process was fairly quick. This is the time where we actually picked up our certificate of co-ownership, paid for the certificate, which was around
€45.
45 euros, and then straight from receiving the certificate of co-ownership, we went to the notary, which is in our case located in the Camara, which was very handy because we actually knew where we were going. The seller were there with his lawyer, and the whole process at the notary, I think, took around an hour and a half, which is how long it's supposed to take. And we shook hands and went our separate ways.
Before you go to the notary office, you actually have to transfer the money to the seller. In our case, we lost the internet connection, and then obviously it was a big sum of money, so we had to go through some security checks. So if you can do any of that before, that would be great. After watching some security videos, I was able to send the money. And then the reason you do that is because when you're actually at the notary, the seller signs that he has received the money. So that money needs to be kind of done prior. Obviously, because this is a piece of land, that sum wasn't as great as you would expect, you know, if you're paying for a house. There's probably a slightly different process. In our case, we skipped the promissory contract. Our solicitor said, you know, why don't you save some money and not pay for this promissory contract, which could take up to a month or 2 months, you know, in some cases, just to draw a contract, and then you have to transfer the 10% deposit to the seller. We skipped all that. There were times where we thought, you know, maybe we should have signed that contract. What if someone else wants to buy this property? What if they offer more money than us? What if we get outbid? These are all the thoughts you go through. These are all the thoughts we've gone through. But in the end, the whole process was pretty long, but very relaxed.
It was genuinely like, okay, this is happening on this day, bring these kind of documents, blah, blah, blah. So very relaxed in terms of what we have to do.
Another thing we wanted to mention is at the Camara, we had to pay for the certificate of co-ownership. We had to pay for the deed, which was around €400, and we had to pay the taxes. And all of that can only be done using a Portuguese card. We were using the Revolut card, which is like a multi-currency account, and we were not able to pay. But fortunately, our amazing lawyer told us that you know, she can pay with her card, and we're just going to transfer her the money to her account, which was really helpful.
So that might be something you might want to clear up with your lawyer. Is that something they can do for you, or do you have to open up a Portuguese bank account before buying your property?
Yeah, which is usually the case, which is what usually people do, but we thought, you know, we're just going to wing it.
Yeah.
And we did, and we succeeded. But our next step is to actually open a Portuguese bank account, because it's going to be really useful.
We're going to need to pay utilities and taxes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So a bank account would be useful prior. It would make your life, you know, less stressful.
And what I've heard as well, it doesn't take a day or a few hours, it takes a few days. So make sure you do that in advance as well if you need to open up a Portuguese bank account before signing the deed.